let's start with Miss Janelle.
Miss Janelle Monáe.
I'm
Okay.
so excited. Phil's a big Janelle fan.
Listen, if I'd have known that Phil and I had so much in common, I would have tried harder to be his friend and I live in the same state with him.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
It's all right. I mean, it also, like, again, it's also making me feel like, yeah, this is part of why I like Chelsea, because who did you like? The people who like some of the same things I like. Oh, okay. So maybe there's like a reason. Because sometimes I don't know if this is ever any experience you have, but sometimes I still struggle with like when people are friends with me, I'm like, but do they really like me or is it just them being nice to me?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. And
100%.
so sometimes, and
Yeah.
so sometimes, especially when I'm like, but she's so cool and she likes a lot of things that I think are cool, unless she's just cool in the way that she's so cool that she can be nice to people who are different than her. And she's just being nice to me. And I still, as a grown ass woman, have to like deal with this constantly where I'm like, but is it really me that they like, or is it because of, and so I'm still, those are still mental models like we could do like a million episodes on. So anyway, it just makes me
Yeah,
happy to know
100%. Yeah.
that it's like to me, I'm like, oh, she might just genuinely like me
I
then.
do genuinely like you, Casey.
I was
And
like,
if
she
I didn't,
married
I would
someone who
let you
liked
know too.
it. Same, yeah, but I was like, she married a man who likes some of the same things I do. She actually just might like me as a person. Cool.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I
Cute.
genuinely like you, Casey.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
And it's fun that we have so much in common. I think I would genuinely like you if we didn't have so much in common, but I think it's like the icing on the cake, of like,
thank you.
yeah, it's great.
Now I feel a little self-conscious, like we made this a very special episode for me, but I
No,
appreciate it. Like as far as like, no, Casey,
no, I love it. Yeah, I
little
love it.
full house music where we're like
Yeah.
having a heart to heart.
I think that's also a very real thing that like I know I would say the past 2 years I've made the biggest progress on of like do if people are not giving me like the indicators that they like me, then like I'm not gonna try to win them over. I'm not gonna just try to be nice to them. I'm gonna say I am a very particular type of sandwich. And if you don't like this type of sandwich, then
Yeah.
bye. That's
Maybe
okay.
maybe I don't go in your picnic basket. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah,
Totally.
100%.
That's a very healthy attitude. It's again one of those times where it's like, I know I have given friends that same advice where I'd be like, well,
Yeah,
I kind of look at it because I think I don't remember if I'd said it on like any recorded thing or just to you. But even when I was younger, I kind of like thought about things in terms of energy. And I was aware
yeah,
that I had limited energy. And so sometimes I'd be like, well, listen, if I'm not getting like reciprocal kind of energy from you, that's just too much of my energy to be putting out for it to not be reciprocated. And like already realizing that might not be the best use of my energy.
yeah,
And I would say that to people, and I would genuinely mean it to people. But this is also a whole other video we could do where I was good at giving advice, where I still was like, well, this is the rule, but I'm the exception. And not because I
yeah.
was special, but because I was the biggest piece of shit. And so I was like,
Girl, yes,
that's true for
same.
everyone else except for me because I'm a horrible and terrible person deep down inside in my dark soul. But for
Yeah,
you, that is true. And you should expect that someone will reciprocate the same amount of love. But for me, I have to try harder because I don't deserve love from anyone.
yeah.
And so,
Oh my
anyway,
God. That reminds me, I know we're here to talk about Janelle
yeah,
Monáe.
we'll get to her. Don't worry. Yeah.
We will. That reminds me, David Archuleta. You know
Uh-huh.
David Archuleta?
I do. I've actually been to a David Archuleta concert,
Too.
but I didn't know who he was.
You
And I
didn't?
was, because it was after I came home from my mission and a friend was like, hey, my friend was like, hey, I watched American Idol. I know you wouldn't have because you wouldn't have been watching TV the last year and a half, but one of the guys who was the runner-up, who I think should have won, is doing a concert at the college nearby. Do you want to go? And I was like, sure. And then
Yeah.
it was great because we went, and then on our way there, my friend was coming from another friend's house, and she was like tutoring her with math, and she's like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And we're like, "We're going to go to the David Archuleta concert." This is like when he's a tiny little baby,
Yeah.
and so she was like, "Okay, can I come too?" And we're like, "Sure." And so she had to bring her math book. was at the college, and I didn't know who he was. And my friend who told me about it was the only one who like knew who he was. And so it was like my friend who knew who he was, me who I was like just there for a good time, and my other friend who maybe knew who he was, but mostly was there for a good time, but had also just come from tutoring, so she had a math book with her. And we were at little baby David Archuleta's concert. And I was like, I mean, he has a pretty voice and everything, but what really won me over is when he covered Como la Flor by Selena. And then I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this guy's okay in my book.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
He's a very talented musician, but he just came out with a book, Devout. Have you heard of his new book?
I haven't heard of his book, but I've been aware of his recent journey and kind of being coming out and kind of being more himself. Because
Yeah.
especially like some of my other friends who are gay who have been members of the church have like really have looked up to him and been appreciative of like
Yeah.
his experience. So anyway, so I've been
Yeah.
aware of his journey. I just haven't followed it a lot personally.
Yeah, I haven't followed it a lot personally, but I found out that he like wrote a book earlier this week. It's literally the first book that I've binged in 2026. It was so freaking good. And the reason why I
Oh.
bring it up is because a lot of what you were saying around like the shame, like I think Mormon kids, especially growing up in a high demand religion, we are just bottles of shame. And he talks a lot about that and talks a lot
Mhm.
about how he was the exception for the rule because of all the shame that he felt. And it was just such a healing like listen. I listened to it, but it was such a healing listen. And while there are like several themes that I can't personally relate to, just hearing how he was grappling not only like how do you be your authentic self with like this high demand religion and the constraints around that it puts on like its members, how do you grapple with that
Mhm.
while being like deeply spiritual and deeply religious, and yeah, it I highly recommend it to
Okay.
anyone. It's so freaking good. I
We'll
was
have to
gonna
check
have it
that
be a book, our book club book, but then I was just like so excited about it. I read it in like 12 hours and I was like, okay, I guess I
I
have
was
to come
gonna
up with
say,
another one.
I was gonna say, here's the thing with our book club, because we all have kind of like diverse tastes and diverse ability to like read. And then
Yeah.
also one of my favorite things about our little book club is that it's just like, when everyone's done, message, and then we'll set up a
Yeah.
time to meet
Yeah.
versus like every 6 weeks or whatever like other book clubs do.
Yeah.
And so then, of course, like in between the books that we're reading for this book club to discuss, we come across like other books that we've
A
enjoyed.
hundred
And that
percent.
sometimes I feel like we probably in our book club, and this is obviously something we're going to discuss in the next book club, should just like be like, hey, maybe should we just like have a session where we like just recap some books and like
We might
do
do
like
that.
a
Honestly, that's
reading rainbow
yeah.
version where we're like, here's this book, here's what I liked about it, but don't take my word for it. And then like recommend books to each other. And then maybe like whoever's turn it is to pick can pick the next book.
You know what? I love that idea. I think
Okay.
maybe I'm gonna steal your idea because I think next month is my month to like figure it out. What if we did like a PowerPoint presentation? Like each of us did a PowerPoint presentation of like, here are all the books we read, and here's why we would recommend it or not recommend it.
Love
And
it.
then we could just
And
like
then that's our book club is just like nerding out about books about that we have read that we're not like that we're like we couldn't wait until everyone else read it too.
yeah,
Yeah.
literally.
I like that idea. That's a really good
Especially
idea.
because like I think we all just are like voracious. Is that the word? Like readers where
Voracious
we
readers, yeah.
voracious, yeah,
Yeah.
voracious readers where we just like read a lot or listen to a lot of audiobooks and
Mhm.
consume a lot of that content.
And we have different like tastes
Yeah,
that overlap often, but like often lead us down our own little paths. So there are definitely
yeah,
things that like I know that you've read that I haven't read that I know Elizabeth hasn't read. So
yeah.
and she like has her own oh gosh, she is got her own, she's on a different plane when it comes to reading books.
Yes, she really is. Oh my
Yeah.
God, she really is. She is, yeah, she reads so much. That's just,
Uh-huh.
yeah. I when we were reading Strong Ground and Brene
Uh-huh.
was talking about how she loves like the mystery novels and reads like I think one a week or something. I was like,
Uh-huh.
that is Liz. That is Elizabeth
Uh-huh.
right there.
Yeah. That was me before like the golden age of television and internet
Yeah.
existed. But
Yes.
now I have so many ways to consume stories
It's so
that I
true.
don't always just do it via the written page.
It's true. Well, tell us about
Oh, sorry.
consuming
Yes, let's get back on
stories
track.
versus listening to music because music
Yes.
is storytelling.
Here's what. Okay, and this is just here is this, it's, I don't think this is a hot take at all, but this is just a stance that I have, and it's kind of a soapbox I have, which I felt silly that it even had to become an opinion of formed, but because sometimes of the world we live in, it's like the opinion I have formed and gladly shared over the last several years, which is, for whatever reason, we have like put reading written word on a pedestal. And
Mm,
then any other consumption of storytelling, we're kind of like poo-pooing it. And so now we've just like made a hierarchical version of what is the classiest, best, most intelligent, and enlightened way to consume information. And written word is top tier.
mm,
And I like to read. I really do. But what I like about reading is I like to learn. I like to get other perspectives. I like to get lost in information or in a new world, all that kind of stuff. And then, so when you hear those things, getting to know other characters, getting to escape to a different world, getting new information, what are other ways that that stuff gets delivered to us? It gets delivered to us through podcasts. It gets delivered to us through television, through articles, through art, through music. And
social
so that's
media.
all to say, like reading has always been, yeah, social media. Reading has always been kind of like this. And it is a really, really wonderful way to experience all that because also too cognitively, the things that your brain has to do, you're getting visual input, you're letting your brain practice decoding and retrieving information that comes from a visual input. You're letting your brain use its own imagination to create pictures and stuff in your head. But that being said, like, and then other people too will give you like the because there's also the stereotype of like, oh, you're just lazy and watching TV. And I'm like, right, but when you're reading, what are you doing? Most of the time you're sitting. So are you
Yeah,
really like that much better than everyone because you read a book sitting versus someone who watched a TV sitting? And
yeah,
so, like, there's been all these, like, sort of like this snobbery around reading where I'm like, listen, I love books. I'm a huge
yeah,
book fan. I was a crazy reader when I was a kid. I still love to read. I don't read it at the same level because our avenues for consuming stories has changed and evolved. And I do think then, obviously, too, this is part of a larger discussion of like some of the attention challenges we have now that we didn't have before, because obviously now ours is like an attention economy, where
mm,
now people recognize it is harder just to sit and read than it used to be because that is not how we're used to consuming information. So yeah, from like that standpoint, reading is a good exercise as far as like the friction maxing element that it gives you. But I also think like, the stereotype about people being lazy and sitting and watching TV is like they're just watching garbage. And I'm like, have you read some books? Some books are objectively like more
garbage.
just like
You could say
salacious and
garbage.
like yeah,
Yeah,
like garbage than others. Like others like that's what I just don't understand is it's like there's the mileage varies on books just as it does on television.
oh my
And
God.
so like you have to, I don't know. So it's just one of those things where I see just people are like, I don't have a TV, I read. Like they're somehow better than other people. And I'm like, bitch, I consume stories too across a multitude of avenues. You know what I
Yes,
mean? Like
yeah,
come on, you're not special. I can read too. I just choose to partake and enjoy other parts of life and other parts of
yeah,
storytelling.
yeah,
Anyway, like I said, it's just like this weird kind of like soapbox that I've developed because I'm like, you're not better than anyone because you read and not watch TV. There's nothing wrong with watching TV. It shouldn't be the only way you do anything, as is the case for everything in life. Reading shouldn't be
yeah,
your only connection to like storytelling and gaining information, just like TV
yeah,
shouldn't, just like any one thing shouldn't.
yeah,
Anyway, so when it comes to music, I've always really enjoyed music and I've always really enjoyed words, and words has been something that has been pretty easy for me. So even as a kid, it wasn't as hard for me to understand lyrics than it was for other people. It wasn't hard for me to learn lyrics to songs as other people. I remember one time, I don't know, I must have been around 8 or 9, and Aladdin had come out. It was either Aladdin or Beauty and the Beast, somewhere around there. And so we were hearing the songs on the radio a lot from those movies. And I don't remember which one it was, but whichever one it was, I hadn't seen either movie.
okay,
But I had heard the radio and I had heard that song a lot.
yeah,
And so when the song came on and I was just singing all the words to it, my siblings are like, my two sisters, I remember it was, and they were like, how do you know the words to this? And I was like, because I've heard it. And they were like, what? And it was blowing their mind. And also because they were my sisters, they were like, I think you're lying to us. because also like, sibling like competition and you don't want to give your annoying little sister credit for something when she's
No,
so
not at all. Yeah,
um
not at all.
but I was just like genuinely all that's happened is I've heard this on the radio several times and now I know the words.
Yeah.
And so that's all to say it was never that hard for me to pick up lyrics. Now, did I always understand what lyrics means? Oh, heavens, no. I remember in the early 90s, my brother was he was getting really into like West Coast rap. He listened to a lot of like Snoop Dogg was out, like the Dog House was
Oh, yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I could do a lot and like because again, I could pick up on music or lyrics. I knew like the whole first verse and into the chorus of Ain't Nothing But a G Thing. And I was like 8. Did I understand anything I was saying? No. I was
Yeah.
this little white girl who was 8 years old. Of course, I had no context for
Yeah.
any of the stuff or, like maybe how inappropriate it was. And
Yeah.
to be fair, my brother, who's like 5 years older than me, probably didn't either because he was only like, what, 13, 14 at the time. So that's all to say, like learning words to music has never been that hard. Recalling them, understanding them hasn't ever been as much of a challenge to me as it is for people. I'm not saying like I'm the best at it because I'm definitely not, but um, so I give you all of that kind of context to understand then when people would especially in our church when people would talk about how important it was to like consider the music and the influence that that music might be having on you and how it might influence your access to like feel the Holy Ghost and all that kind of stuff, I would take it so personally and
Yeah.
partly just because I was already very inclined to do that
Yeah.
and be like, oh no, I've got to be so good but also because I had become aware at an early age that I had this ability to understand language
Mhm.
that other people didn't have. And
Mhm.
honestly, like you do most of the time when you're growing up, you just figure whatever's you can do, other people can do too.
Yeah.
And so I just was like, well, how come you don't get this lyrics and stuff like that? But then, of course, as I got older and started to realize, and my theory of mind developed better, and was like, oh, everyone has different experiences, everyone's brain is different than mine. I started
Everyone
to
has
appreciate, like,
different talents too. I think that really is a talent that you have. Like
yeah,
just language, like you are very language gifted and talented. And that's something that you also have been very mindful at cultivating and like building over time as well. So yes, you have it's born, what is it, nature and nurture. I feel like
yeah.
that's you.
Nature and nurture came together, and I'm just like got a language talent that it's not
Yeah,
accessible to everyone else.
yeah,
And so, anyway, well, so that also when I started getting lessons like that in church and hearing that in church, it just expanded and expounded on like feelings of guilt I was already having about anything that was like remotely naughty.
right.
Because I started to learn too that a lot of my friends would be like, oh, I just really like the beat of this. I had no idea that that's what they were saying. I
Yeah,
never understood the lyrics. And I'd be like, haha, yeah, me neither. 100% a lie. I knew exactly what they were saying. And once I had enough context to, even if I didn't fully like understand like maybe the literal meaning of stuff, I like at least had that basic discrimination of I think this is probably inappropriate. I think
yeah,
this is probably appropriate.
yeah,
Um, I like couldn't I just always felt terrible because in an effort to not compromise my safety in a group, I would just be like, "Oh yeah, totally didn't get that." Knowing
yeah,
full well exactly what the person was saying and knowing full well probably it was not appropriate.
yeah,
So, lead to me being a closeted music fan for a long time. And when I say closeted music fan, I mean people knew I loved music, but
right.
I would keep so closeted the music that I liked that I knew would kind of be seen as inappropriate for me to like. And so, this is also where I want to remind you that this is like through the 90s and the early 2000s. This is also when there's been a lot of unexamined like sexism and racism and it's obviously still around, but it hadn't had as many like think pieces written about it to bring more awareness to it of like these kind of bigger cultural systems that we've been living in for a long time and how those influenced stereotypes and the way that we kind of judged and considered people.
Yeah,
So it also meant my brother, who was 5 years older than me and was the only boy in my family, often got a pass
okay.
for like the boys will be boys pass when he liked things that were kind of inappropriate versus when I liked things that were inappropriate because I was a girl, even though I was 5 years younger than him.
Do you want to know what David Archuleta also has a chapter in his book about that?
Tell me.
About how in the church, because this is also at the time where we had the For Strength of Youth pamphlet come out. So this was a pamphlet that was specifically targeted towards like policies that the church had put together specifically for the youth. And
Mhm.
this wasn't things that were found in the Bible or in any sort of scripture. These were literal policies that the leaders of the church decided to instill. And so those
Mhm.
were things like only having one earrings, like piercing in your earrings, and dating when you're 16, like you can't date before that. And
And even
like,
when you start dating, not an exclusive dating situation. Just don't start going on dates
yes,
until you're 16. Yes.
yes, 100%. And then
Mhm.
group dates too, and all that other stuff. And it also has
Modesty
like,
standards of
yes,
dress and things like
a
that.
hundred percent. And modesty for sure. David mostly talks about like the modesty aspects of it and how, and the law of chastity. So like not having sex until your marriage and how, until you're married, and how it had to be heteronormative. Is that it? The
Yeah, when it's just
yeah.
like, yeah, the heteronormative of like it's always man and woman.
Yeah, 100%. So
Mhm.
that's where he was saying that when he started like talking to his friends, that a lot of the girls got in bigger trouble when they came to the clergymen of their wards and of the congregations and would confess their sins, that all the guys that he had talked to had gotten passes, but for girls doing the same thing, it was like a lot more scrutiny, that they weren't able to take the sacrament like for longer stretches of time. They were kind of more punished or had to do more steps of the repentance process and all that other stuff. So, yes, not a great thing.
Yeah,
It's also
exactly.
such a bummer too. It's such a bummer that like you said, that was the time that we grew up in, and I'm so grateful that we have more awareness and more people have talked about it and more people are um more, I don't know, they're just leaving space to have it be more equal. I'm not saying it is 100% equal, but
Yeah.
it's definitely a lot better than like the 90s or early 2000s.
Yeah, no, 100%. So anyway, so it's kind of the climate I'm growing up in. And so it was like I loved, like, my brother and I were very close when I was younger. There was always this joke that I was like the little brother he never had because he is the oldest and he has three sisters. And so when he found out that I, the last child, was also going to be a girl, he was a little bit like, ugh, because he was so tired of having sisters. And but like thankfully I was a lot more of like a inherently like feral kid where I was like and like very crazy and wanted to wrestle and wanted to like, and I loved, playing like Legos and micro machines with him, like these boy toys. And I loved being outside. And so I was just a lot more game to do some of the stuff that my sisters hadn't done yet, just because that was something I found interesting.
Yeah.
And so for a long time, there was the joke that I was like the little brother he never had. And so I would like, so whatever and I just thought I adored him. So like whatever he thought was cool, I thought was cool. And
Yeah.
he was like the epitome of cool to me for the longest time. And so I was like, well, if that's what he thinks, then that is what's right because he
Yeah.
is the coolest and I love him. And
Aw.
so it was, thank you. And then like, puberty hits and he starts to get too cool for me, but I
Yeah.
still adore him and he still like likes me, but has to put different barriers around it because of, being a teenager and being cool. But anyway, so that's to say, like, whatever music he liked, I was like, yeah, this is totally great. And then the truth was, though, I genuinely liked it. And there were things that he liked that I didn't like, and I would do the thing where I pretended to like it just because I wanted to hang out with him. But for the most part, most of the stuff that he liked, I really liked. And so that meant like I got introduced to like rap at a pretty early age. Like I said, I was like 7 or 8 when I, started learning about Snoop Dogg and hearing his album. And then I also loved grunge, like when the grunge movement was happening in the early 90s. I loved that. I remember my brother had a black and white TV in his bedroom and he would play Dr. Mario on it, which was funny because it like you have to match colors. And so he and I got pretty good at trying to figure out like what shade of gray or black was the right color. But I would remember we would play on our NES Dr. Mario and listen to like the grunge station. And so I was listening to like all the grunge bands that were out at the time, so of course like Nirvana and some Pearl Jam, but also like, Stone Temple Pilots and
Yeah.
like all of just like everything, Soundgarden, like that whole movement and everything that was going on there. And then he also was who introduced me to like Beck and the Beastie Boys.
Aw.
And I like loved the Beastie Boys so much, and I loved
Yeah.
Beck, and like Odelay was like in heavy rotation after it came out. And so like again, he kind of had more of a past where my mom would be like, I don't know that that music's appropriate. But like he ultimately was just
Yeah.
like, whatever, he's a boy, boys will be boys. But I remember one time, and he and I would play this game. We would listen to Sabotage by Beastie Boys, and we would have it on in the house when it was just me and him, and we would blast it when it was like just me and him for whatever reason. Like my sisters were at band practice and my parents weren't home from work yet, and it was just me and him. And we would play this game. We would play Sabotage, is what we called it. But it was like we would just crank that song up really loud, and then we would pretend to like kind of like we would go like sort of like GoldenEye, like James Bond pretending to like hunt each other down and kill each other off first, but we just had finger guns. And so it was also very honor system of like who pointed to the other person and said bang, bang, bang first. And then you were the winner of that round of Sabotage. And we would do that all the time. And so it was just like also like that song had a lot of like meaningful like connection to me in my life because it was like me and my brother doing something fun.
Yeah.
One time, though, I was home alone, which was a pretty rare thing for me, a member of a family of six, to be
Yeah.
home alone. And I mean, not like it wasn't rare for us kids to not have our parents home. Again, it was the 90s. We were latchkey kids. Both my parents worked, but it was like rare for me to have the house to myself. And so one time I had cranked it up all by myself just because I loved that album. And I was listening to that song album, and then Sabotage came on, and I was just like mouthing the words and doing that thing where you pretend like you're in the music video for it and acting it out. And I was so into it and just so lost in it. And then all of a sudden, my mom was like, what are you doing? And I like jumped out of my skin and I was like, oh, and like hurried and like turned the music down as fast as possible. Kind of like when you are worried you're gonna get caught watching a naughty show and you hurry and change
Yeah.
the channel. It
Yeah.
was like that, but with this song. And I was like, I was just listening to music, and my mom's like, you like that? And I was like, yeah. And I felt like the
Oh,
worst kid in the world. So
yeah.
that was also data for my brain of like, okay, cool, you got to double down on hiding this from mom.
Yeah.
Like your brother, it's okay. She's like tolerating that your brother likes it. She still disapproves, but she tolerates it that he does it. She's not
Yeah.
going to tolerate that you like it.
Mhm.
And so anyway, like Lee too continued in my life liking this music that was just not like super radio friendly and considered appropriate and all this kind of stuff, not only just for a girl, but also for like a really a member of this high demand religion. And it went against like the standards of for the strength of youth, as far as like the cultural agreement it was. And so, cut to like, it didn't matter what I liked. If it seemed like it was going to put me in risk of any social safety, I didn't let people know I liked it. So, this included awesome music that I loved, like the Beastie Boys and Beck. But, like, oh my gosh, when I fell in love with, when I heard The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, when I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know, maybe in ninth or 10th grade. And I was like, I had no life experience, but I could recognize that whatever she was saying was wisdom. And then it was like one of those albums that I aged into, and I was like, oh, yeah, that totally does make sense. Yeah, yeah. Like as an adult with like more life experience, where it's
Yeah.
like, it is what you were singing about, and you were absolutely right. But
Yeah.
also, like, what a masterpiece that you can like put your songs out there and be like, yeah, that's all I had to say. And then like it stands the test of time. But it was such a good album. And I could not like, I remember one time like my friends, because the other thing is too, I was friends with a lot of really good kids from this church too, and they were good friends, but like they were also influenced and affected by like societal norms, and so it was pretty easy for us to judge each other and like kind of police each other the way that we were probably very likely policing ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I remember one time there was like, I don't know, some sort of like, and it wasn't even like a serious hip hop song, but it was just like a hip hop song playing. And my one friend was like, oh, I don't know, this is kind of bad. We probably should change the song. And I was like, yeah, we totally should. But it was a song I loved. And I can't even tell you what it was right now.
Yeah.
And so again, switch to like, I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to make sure my friends don't know what I like because this is all just naughty music. And it wasn't.
Yeah.
Again, were some of the lyrics inappropriate? Sure. Did I understand them? No. But like
Yeah.
instead of it just being this immediate, I can't believe you like this kind of thing, just kind of like I had no one with that would had curiosity around me of like, oh, I wonder what it is you like about this. I wonder if you really understand what they're talking about, kind of thing. What is it that's speaking to you? And so anyway, I anything that I thought that my friends would think was inappropriate, that my mom would think was inappropriate, I pretended not to like, or if it was even stuff like, even though like in Sync and Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears, like that whole Y2K pop, boy band resurgence was happening.
Yeah.
Um, and I did genuinely find a lot of music very catchy. I
Yeah.
couldn't let anyone know that either because that was also not my brand and I was too cool for that. So it was like the amount of times in my car I would be like blasting like bye 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 and then a friend would get in and I'd heard like change to the radio. So they wouldn't know. It was just like so silly. And I was just constantly hiding the music that I liked.
Yeah.
And just getting all sorts of messaging about why it was inappropriate that I liked it. I also had friends who went to EFY, who went to the same Jesus camp you went to. And it was a thing. I don't know if it was a thing when you were there. You'll have to clarify this. But I know it was a thing when my friends were there, like in the very early 2000s, like 2000, 2001, 2002. When they would go, they would often come back and be like, I'm going to throw away these CDs because they have inappropriate lyrics or whatever.
I definitely did that like after the first EFY I went to, because I think that's was the cusp of like what you consume is going to influence your thoughts, and it's going to influence like your desires, and like if you have any sort of like desires that aren't aligned with like purity culture, then you are a sinner. And just wanting to follow, because that was a big thing too, is like we follow the prophet, we follow the leaders of the church, we respect authority, and if they tell us we're going to do something, we're going to do it. And so that's what a lot of it was, is just I want to be a good member. I want to be able to secure my attachment, or like secure my place in the society and be accepted by the norm, kind of like what you're saying of like I don't
Mhm.
want to jeopardize my place in this community. So I'm gonna go do what the leaders are telling me to do.
Yeah. And so it wasn't uncommon for a lot of friends who did go to EFY to come back and be like, I want to throw away this CD because it's inappropriate. And I'd be like, oh, good for you. And then me be like, but I really like that album. I
Yeah,
really like that song. And like not have it in my heart to be able to stop listening to it and then feeling terrible anytime I did because I was like, but I don't want to stop listening to Lauryn Hill or
yeah,
the Beastie Boys or Rage Against the Machine or whatever it was. Because I was like, because I just
yeah,
really like something about their music. And
yeah.
I really didn't want to. And so it, again, drove me further into like this musical closet I was in where I didn't want people to know. I remember too, so like if we scoot back even back into the 90s, I was a huge nerd as we've established and still am, but I was in middle school and so I was like, oh, I should do the academic bowl, which is like, the trivia team for your school. I
Okay.
was like, that would be fun to do. I like knowing things. And so I
Yeah.
was like in seventh grade and I joined the academic bowl. And anyway, we were going to like, I don't know, we'd practice and stuff after school. And then we were going to have a competition with some other school in our like county or whatever. And so we go to it. And it was one of those things where we were excused to go and like miss class for this academic bowl. My parents though couldn't get off of work. But my three academic bowl teammates, their parents got off work or someone in their family got off work to come watch the game. And then like the school essentially was like, and then afterwards, if you just want to go home with your parent, that's fine if you have someone coming. Otherwise, you have to go back to school and like go home the normal route you did, which I took the bus back then. And so I remember my other three teammates, we lost, by the way, but my three teammates were going home, but I didn't, or like with the parent or whoever came for them. And then I didn't have that. Both my parents had to work. And so I was riding back with our teacher, who was the academic bowl team advisor. And she was this really wonderful, like she was a very nice, quiet, soft-spoken woman. But we were in her car and she had like a hip hop station on. And it was like The Rain Super Duper Fly by Missy Elliott had just come out. And I hadn't like been exposed to it yet. I did watch MTV secretly because like that was also so naughty. But like I hadn't seen her video yet, which was also like amazing. But that was my first exposure to Missy Elliott. And we were listening to it and she was like, oh, I like this song. And so we started listening to it. And then I was like, oh, I didn't say anything to her because I was super embarrassed and shy around adults and also grappling with this, like, I don't know if it's like safe for me to like music thing in my life.
Yeah.
But she was really into it and I was so into it and I loved it a whole lot. Like it was just like, wow, this is amazing. I love this. And then after the song played, she was like, oh, or as the song was like getting further on, she was like, oh, maybe this isn't appropriate to listen to. So then she just turned the volume down. But then I think Pony by Genuine came on next and she just straight up changed the channel. But I remember like she introduced me to Missy Elliott and I'm forever grateful to her for that. She was my math teacher the next year and she didn't do very well teaching me math, but I will forever be grateful for her for teaching me who Missy Elliott was. Anyway, But yeah, so cut to like I just constantly was worried about the music I liked and what that meant about me, and I was like so worried and so ashamed of it. Then I started to realize like um and I didn't have an excuse because I constantly was aware of what the lyrics were. So finally though, I just had to get to a point where I was like, whatever. I like it and I like it and I like that I like it and I'm not going to apologize about it. And so that was something that as an adult I had to like kind of reshape that me liking this music didn't automatically mean anything, especially when I could start to appreciate some of the other nuances around why certain music got labeled as good or bad, particularly what was the ethnicity or color of skin of the person who created the music, and whose culture did it largely represent, but also just like, all sorts of other things that can influence why we think certain music is good or bad. And I was just like, I don't care. I'm just going to like what I like, and that's fine. And then I started slowly testing the waters of telling people what I liked genuinely. I just had gotten to how to make myself get to the point where I was comfortable listening to it by myself. Then I
Yeah,
slowly started like coming out of the closet about stuff I liked with other people. It
yeah,
always helped when I found a friend who also liked those things, who also like we kind of had that unspoken understanding of like this is supposedly like kind of naughty for us to listen to, but we like it, so whatever.
yeah,
And I was always very grateful for those friends who could just appreciate how fun it was to like sing Scream Bulls on Parade in the car or switch to like I want it that way and like try to hit the harmony part in the
yeah.
car. And all that kind of stuff. And so anyway, and that's part of why I liked you, I remember, because you also like had a sincere love of Hall and Oates, which I also did, which they would not be considered naughty at all, but they were definitely
No,
not considered cool by most
they
people.
were not considered cool. I had even had some coworkers at the time when I was like living in Utah that were like, screw Hall and Oates, like screw Tom Petty, like all these people who were like near and dear to my heart. And I'm like, I like you as a person, but that was like a dagger to the heart for you to say you were my favorite artist.
Like I like you
I'm
as a
like,
person,
hold
but
it.
now I'm questioning why.
Yes. And then I also remember too, I was never really into Arcade Fire, but a group of my coworkers really were, and they came out with an album. I forget which album it was. It was like in 2017, I think. And they came out with an album, and I remember listening to it and being like, oh my God, this is so good. And they were just like shitting all over the album. And I was like, I cannot tell you what music I like. Like, that is just an off limits topic.
Yes.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I have
It's like
like a lot of empathy for you of like this is like good music, this is bad music, or people
mhm,
being really outspoken about like what is
mhm,
good, what is bad, and not
mhm,
leaving room or space for there to be differences. I mean, I don't think like at least my coworkers, they were kind enough to know that like they had really strong opinions and they really didn't care what I liked. But it
mhm.
still kind of created this dissonance, especially as someone who like needed that external validation and was like trying so hard to like fit in. Or I mean, I fit in, but I was just like, for some reason, I had to like other myself too. So yeah, I full on empathy for what you went through.
Well, and I was going to say too, like generation. So even just outside of like the religious component, generationally, like Gen X was a lot more prone to being like, oh, this is like you've sold out, and like, oh, this
Yeah,
is so lame. And then if you like look at the history of the world, most of the time people have thought anything that girls really liked was automatically lame. And so of course, boy bands and pop music. And it's like, no, but I genuinely also love pop music. Like,
yeah,
golly, I love Robin. I love Carly Rae Jepsen. I love Charlie
yeah,
XCX. I love like Selena Gomez. I love all these people who
yeah,
are just really great musicians as well.
yeah,
And so it's just like, I like obviously some of those people that I talked about are like obviously more modern and contemporary musicians, but it just also meant like growing up, I was trying to find that line between I don't want like the different generations to think I'm lame, but also like I'm trying to toe the line of
yeah,
um, like in this religious group, how to feel like I have social safety, and then also just with your peers, the stuff that you usually do. So yeah, like I said, it was a whole process for me just to be like, nope, this is what I like, and I'm not going to apologize about it, and
yeah.
I just like it. And so then I
Oh,
started just like enjoying it and leaning into it a whole lot more. And gosh, like that's one of the beauties of music is that it can just be fun. It can be a
yeah,
fun escape and like another way to like experience and learn about the world and just like be distracted from things or like kind of just get a release from whatever or just like find joy. So
yeah.
I was happy when I finally started leaning into it more. And so that brings us to Miss Janelle Monáe.
Aw.
This was from I had gotten into her because I had listened to her early stuff where she was doing conceptual albums around Jane the Android, like the Arch Android. I can't remember, but all those albums where she was, because I've always loved to like a concept album, like a space opera, all that kind of stuff, or just like some sort of operetta. I remember when Coheed and Cambria's In Keeping Secrets of Silencer 3 came out in like the early 2000s, and I like that album, that CD was like on heavy rotation in my car just because I was like, you were on a journey. Plus, the music was super catchy and fun. Plus, if you wanted to, you could pair it with the graphic novel they had written, which I didn't because I was like, oh, I just like the album. But
Yeah.
I mean, I might have liked the graphic novel too. I don't know. Anyway, so like I'm just a big fan of a concept album too, especially where it's like, wow, you're kind of, again, going back to reading, you're kind of getting lost in this new world, but you're getting like this very different, like kind of like oral experience with it. Aural, Aural, not oral. So aural just means it has to do with your ears. Quick, like lesson about words, um, about medical terminology. But anyway, yeah, and then her album Dirty Computer came out, and golly, I loved it so much. And I was already at this point in my life where I was realizing, hey, a lot of the things that I grew up identifying with and believing in, and or how I'd constructed a lot of my life, it was me just me feeling kind of like my own version of a dirty computer, trying to fit in and not be noticed and called out for who I was and just trying to like survive in this world. And that's part of why, probably some of her earlier albums resonated with me too, because it touches obviously on those themes. But Dirty Computers, where she really just like takes it away kind of from that android metaphor to like kind of her own personal experience with that. And so I loved it. It was a lot like how I felt when I was listening to the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill for the first time, where I was like, wow, what wisdom. But also, I had had enough life experience to appreciate a lot of the wisdom from this album that she had gained and identify with the things that I was like, yeah, yeah. And like just feeling like heartbroken and seen and just like empowered all at the same time in various points in her album. So, of course, when I found out she was coming through Salt Lake and I was up living in Salt Lake during grad school, of course, I was going to go to her concert. And so, I've been for a long time one of those people where I just kind of realized like if there's something that I want to do, especially if it comes to like arts or music, I may not have someone who has the same taste I have. I would rather just go alone and have the experience than worry about whether or not people are coming with me. And it was something that I had to practice a lot more first because it is nice when you have like a person as kind of a safety net with you. But at the end of the day, I had been for a very long time a person who was like, well, screw it, I want to do it, so I'll just go do it. And so I told my friends I was going to go, asked if they were interested. I don't think any of them like listened to her or knew who she was. So I was like, okay. And so I went. I was by myself, which can feel very awkward because everyone else is in their own little groups. And then it's like, where do I stand? And all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I was like, whatever, I'm just going to go and enjoy it. And it was amazing. Like there was such great energy in the crowd. There were so many people. Like one of the things that she was kind of recognizing about herself in that moment and kind of coming out and being open with was just her queer identity. And so there were a lot of like queer people in the crowd, just like loving. And so that was like such an exciting group to be a part of to have like all these people, like that emotional transcendence you talked about, where it's like all these people feeling seen and excited as it related to their circumstances and their story and their identity and their journey, and me just like absolutely loving it too. And she's like this tiny little woman, and she like she's like maybe 5'2", 5'3". She's very small, but the whole crowd, like we were like whatever Janelle said we would do. We were so she was in control, and it was amazing. And she like it was the dancers were incredible, and it was such a great show. And she was able to do that thing where she incorporated some of her earlier songs like Tightrope and Queen, because I love the song Queen from her album before that. But also just really like celebrate and have fun with her new music and with this group of people who were very into it and supportive of it. And so it was
Aw.
amazing. And so it was one of those times where I was just like, thank goodness I came out of my music closet, because it's so weird to me, as joyful and as happy as I'm feeling right now, to like it's sad to think that that was ever something I would have felt ashamed of and felt like I had to hide, when like right now I just feel so like actualized and happy, and like I'm like, yes, and this is what I want, like this is what I would love for the world to be more like. It's just like celebrating who we are, and that we
Yeah.
don't have to other each other so much, and we're all just like just having this awesome experience and all this kind of stuff. So it was a really exciting moment and concert to go to. It's honestly one of my like top 10 concerts I've ever gone to and
Aw,
been very excited about. So that's why I invited you to come see Janelle with me. Um,
so
Dirty Computer.
beautiful. Yes. I
Yeah.
think it's so much more meaningful to like know like all the steps that you had to take and all the versions of yourself that you had to like meet in order to get to this place where one, you felt comfortable going to a show by yourself, and
Mhm.
two, to like allow yourself that experience of like seeing someone that you admire and love and appreciate their art and being in an environment I love. I mean, I think one of the things that we get along well, our mutual like tastes and stuff, and just like appreciation for concerts and the concert going experience and the environment that's created by these musicians, and like they're
Mhm.
all the people working with the musicians to like make the event happen, and just like everyone there and the excitement there is like very proud of you, Casey, as you were navigating like younger Casey to be able to have those experiences, because I think
Yeah.
it sounds like it was such a transformative experience and just kind of like opened your eyes up, or I don't know, made you more comfortable with yourself and your tastes, and knowing that there was a place for all of you, not just parts of you, but like for all of you to show up.
That's so beautifully said. I hadn't thought of it like that. All of me got to be there. But that's right. That is exactly what it is. And that was very beautifully said. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're so welcome. Do you have any other like peak moments like this, like concerts that just kind of stand out to you as like, man, these are pinnacles, like life-changing experiences?
Yes. So I will say concerts that immediately pop into my head are, in no particular order, um, last year, Missy Elliott, when I live in Texas still, Missy Elliott was in Austin, and it was Missy Elliott and Sierra, and who else made an appearance? Timbaland was there, maybe
Oh my
Redmond was
God.
there. Oh, it was so cool. And it was one of those like I'd heard about it, but I was like, I don't know, because I was like constantly burnt out at this stage of like work where I liked my work, but I had really terrible boundaries around everything. And so I was just constantly burnt out and I didn't appreciate still like how to identify and recognize and protect that. And I still am learning, but I was like in a worse shape then. But I really wanted to go because it's Missy freaking Elliott. And like I told you, I fell in love with her in the 90s and I was like, I can't not go. Um, and so I asked a friend, a coworker who was usually game to go, and she was like, yeah, I'll go with you. And so day of, we bought tickets and they were very cheap because, you know, like day of, like they're just trying to fill the seats. And so it wasn't like I promised you, Missy Elliott, if you like were ever watching this, that would be, first of all, a miracle. But second of all, um, like it wasn't because I was trying to be cheap with her, but I was like, she's fine. She doesn't need my money. But I don't have a lot of it. So let me wait until the tickets are more affordable. And so I went, and then it turned out though, like the coworker I went with, she and I were kind of like we were by each other. She was like, I don't really know who she is, but like I mean, like I know enough who she is, but I'm fine. It's like I'm just going for the good time.
Yeah.
But then another one of our coworkers bought a ticket and he was going, and then another one of our coworkers, and then another one of our coworkers, and then she got floor seats. And so she actually got to make eye contact with Missy Elliott when Missy Elliott did this really cool part where she walked down there. So I was like, Jacqueline, I just got to gaze into your eyes for a little bit. But yeah, so it was funny because it was like, and it turned out that a lot of us from work went, but we were all just like kind of cordoned off and like one
Yeah.
coworker on the floor with her husband. One of my coworkers was like he was over and down a little bit from where we were. One coworker was on the exact opposite side and we just didn't all like I was just talking about how I wanted to go and everything like that. And there
Yeah.
were so like enough people at my job knew it was happening, but like we weren't all like talking to each other about it. And it was like independently all of us decided to go.
Yeah.
So then when we found that out, I was like, okay. So we all like met up afterwards and took a picture together. But that was an incredible
Aw,
show. Missy Elliott still got it, bringing it. Sierra, everyone was amazing. It was so good. Um,
that's awesome.
Another one that I really loved was Lionel Richie. It was like
Oh my
when I
God.
was living in Salt Lake and it was his All the Hits All Night Long
Yeah.
tour. And never
Aw.
in my life did I really consider myself a Lionel Richie fan. Like I wasn't not, but it was one of those things where I was like, I didn't know that I was.
Yeah.
Until my sister and another friend were like, "Oh yeah, he's gonna be at this concert venue, and we're going tonight." And the tickets were only like $30 or something. And I was like, and so as soon as they said they were doing that, I was like, I want to go to a Lionel Richie concert. Like first thought, the first time that thought had ever entered my head.
Yeah.
And I went, and then another friend was like, "Well, I want to go too." So I was like, "Okay." And so we bought us tickets, and then we went. And here's the thing that most people don't think about with Lionel Richie, especially because I guess for like whatever the last several years he's been on American Idol. But like he has so many hits.
He
And
does.
whether or not you know that those are Lionel Richie hits, like you if you heard him, you'd be like, oh, that's him. So it
Yeah.
was amazing. And here's the thing
Aw.
too, Lionel Richie is just so damn charming. Like he
Yeah.
was so charming and he was such a great like MC. And at one point he like knew how to like work the audience and was just like so like charismatic. And he was like, I did this song, Endless Love, with Diana Ross, and I called her to see if she would be available tonight.
Oh
So, of
my
course, the way
God.
he's pitching this story, we're all like, Diana Ross is about to walk on stage. And so we're all like, I'm like losing my mind because I'm like, wait, Diana Ross is going to be here
Yeah.
too.
Oh
And
my
I'm like
God.
losing it. And it was like the coolest thing. And then he was like, but then my friend Diana, when I called her, said, you don't need me, Lionel. You've got a whole audience full of Dianas. Duet with them. And I was like, I get to be Diana Ross? Hell yeah. And so I duetted Endless Love with Lionel Richie. And I was like,
Oh.
oh, it was the coolest thing ever. So that was a really great concert. I
Oh.
Yeah, and then like just a whole bunch of other ones. Like Fleet Foxes was so cool. It was like during their early album stuff, and I was absolutely like this huge fan of them. I've been to Lizzo a few times. She puts on an excellent show.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah.
and at one of them, Lizzo was opening for Florence and the Machine, but then also St. Vincent was between Lizzo and so it was like
Whoa.
just an amazing concert because I got to see Lizzo. This was like very early Lizzo tours. And then this was like St. Vincent and she's incredible. Oh my gosh, she's
Yeah.
incredible. And then
Yeah.
Florence and the Machine came on and I like her just fine. But by that point, me and the friends that I had come with, we were like, I was like, I don't know, guys, I just kind of feel like dancing. And they're like, I could dance. And so we found a hallway because we were in one of those like arenas. So we
Yeah.
found a hallway and no one was around and we just like danced to like 4 or 5 songs through this whole
Oh.
hallway to Florence and the Machine, which of course makes you feel like you want to leap and twirl. And
Yes.
so we were doing like we wanted to like emulate her on stage, which is because I was
Oh.
doing. So that was really fun. And when we did that until security found us and we just ran away.
Like
Like
they're not doing it
before they
again.
could catch us. But it was a lot of fun. So those are some other really fun concerts
Oh.
that I've been to.
I love
And
it.
they'll stand out to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I love
Anyway, what about you? What are some standouts for you?
My first concert ever was Earth, Wind, and Fire with my mom as a Mother's Day concert at Red Rocks. And that was like they came with Chicago too. I was the youngest person in the crowd. I was just with a bunch of boomers who were like, "Are you even old enough to know any of these songs?" But I like love the 70s, love like 60s, 70s music. So that was like my cue zone. Then my my older sister, we have a very similar relationship that you and your brother did of like a lot of my music tastes were influenced by her. And she introduced me to a band from Sweden called The Sounds. And like, I have so many memories of just going to shows like all over Colorado with my sister. And camping out like an hour or 2 hours before the door opened so we could get like the front row seats, like just stand. I mean, it was all standing room only type of a thing. So like seeing the sounds was like really amazing. In my adult life, I was able to go see Hall and Oates with my sister and my mom, and that was really meaningful. It was on at Fiddler on the Green in Colorado. So it was a beautiful like summer evening, and we were sitting on the lawn and we're just like vibing out to Hall and Oates. With Phil, we've gone to a lot of music shows together too, because one of our things that we connect with a lot is music. So we went to ACL for a lot, so we were able to see really amazing.
Austin City Limits for you people who aren't that cool.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So being able to see a lot of musicians that way. But I would say my favorite one there was a artist called Mark Riboulet. Do you know Mark? I think you would like.
Okay, I'm gonna look him up right now.
Yeah, he basically just improvs. He got his start in 2020 during the pandemic. That's when he really took off, even though he's been making music for such a long time. And he would just come up with beats and like ask people in like the chat, like he would just live stream it and would ask people in the chat, like, what should I make a song about? And they are hilarious songs with amazing beats and just like doesn't take life too seriously. He's like from New York. So he has that like New York grittiness about him too. He
Hmm.
goes on tour. He was really a bright spot in the lockdown for Phil and I. So the fact we were able to see him live, he came to Austin City Limits and we were able to see him. That was really great. And then the last one, I'm a huge Bleachers fan, Jack Antonoff from just have loved him like even when he was part of the band Fun. But his solo stuff, for some reason, it just like has unlocked something in me. But I've seen him probably 5 or 6 times and just love everything that he does. They're coming out with a new album, I think, in a few months too. So
Ooh,
just I'm a big Bleachers fan.
that's cool. I
Yeah.
found Mark Ribble. For anyone who's wondering, it's MARC, not
Yes, it
MARK.
is.
And
Yeah,
it's RIB.
I
Him
love
out.
I
Yeah,
think.
it's like French where you're not gonna, it's REBILLET. So
Yeah, yeah,
if you're
all
into
great.
like French people, I'm just kidding. I'm sure I'll like.
It's like very silly. He's not afraid to like swear a lot. Like this is definitely like for the straight
Not,
youth
yeah.
would not approve of his music by any stretch of the imagination. But it is like the best. It's just
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I look forward to it. I'm always happy to get like something new in my rotation, so I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Casey, for
Okay.
sharing the musical journey with us. I loved it. It's so fun.
Thanks for going on a spoken word musical journey with
Yeah,
me.
it's
Yeah,
true. Love
yeah.
it. We'll see you
Okay.
next time.
Bye.